Okay, well, welcome to everyone. This is the May 9th, 2023 session of Hamsci technical session and Tangerine SDR. My name is Dave, KV0S, and this week I've been working on I had to fix my antenna. My whisper transmit antenna kind of flaked out on me, so I think I have it working now. Had to do that. I'm kind of getting ready to go to Dayton, getting pieces together. I am working on the Tapper Forum list, so trying to make sure that it all comes together. And I've been working on my ham shack setup, trying to get some stuff organized and working. So that's it for me. Next on the list, we have Nathaniel, W2 NAF. Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Thanks, Dave. It's been incredibly busy here as we're wrapping up for the end of the semester and getting ready for Hamvention. A lot of good developments, I think. So in the past week, we've made some progress. We're still kind of figuring things out with the direction of the Tangerine SDR project, but we've certainly made some progress with kind of knowing what we need in terms of equipment and some progress in terms of software. What we've kind of come to the conclusion right now is that maybe Scranton doesn't really need to buy the really expensive equipment. We have some good base equipment right now, but for these really like higher end tests, maybe it's better that we use the money to go visit like the ARRL lab for a weekend or so, or a couple of weekdays, and we have our students and our engineer work with the test engineers up there to learn how to run the tests and use their equipment. And similarly, many people on here have generously offered to run tests and things like that, and we could go, maybe we could go visit Dartmouth, maybe we could go visit MIT Haystack. There's a lot of possibilities.
Yes.
So I think maybe the money is better spent on, salaries and travel to do those tests. So we're looking at that right now. We're still trying to get the Cordis licensing figured out. Maybe when Tom gets on, we can talk about that a little bit, because I've learned a few things about that. I think some of the bigger news, we've talked about Majid coming on the project. So Majid will be coming on the project. He'll be at Dayton, so he'll be able to talk with people. Kung is going to be staying at the University of Scranton for a Master's of Software Engineering project. He's actually going to be working on the GRAPE project for the new GRAPE grant, because I have funding for a master's student on that. So he's going to move off Tangerine and on to GRAPE, but he'll still be around. That we'll be able to ask him questions. And so he'll just, be in the same hallway and same area as usual. And then we're going to hire 2 additional students this summer to be dedicated to the Tangerine project. Both of them have had the digital systems Verilog class that they teach here at the university. So one of them is going to be essentially full-time for 10 weeks, and the other one's going to be doing about 7 hours a week. But hopefully, their job's going to be working on this. So hopefully with all of that, we're going to have a good direction. Some other really interesting things. Joe Huba, I had given him the Eclipse tracks that I computed using AstroPi a few weeks ago, and Joe has now run the SAMI 3 prediction for the October annular eclipse, and it's a really interesting result. And I'm going to be showing this over at Dayton, I think. So we actually have a couple of interesting things here that I want to point out. So this is a presentation Joe Huba put together. He did include this is my figure from predicting where the shadow is going to be using AstroPi. The thing I want to point out to here, and this especially, Gary, I want you to take a look at this. Look at how much this annular eclipse goes into Mexico and into South America. And perhaps we should think about expanding the QSO party to advertise to these other countries as well. You know, if we can get all of South America involved and get Canada, basically get the entire American continent on for the solar eclipse QSO party this October, it's kind of a big deal because anyone talking to anyone else on here is going to go across the path. So I think we should try to go beyond just the continental United States.
Yeah, absolutely. There's very good propagation to South America much of the time. So
Yeah.
definitely will be signals crossing that path.
Yeah.
Looks like a good trip to Belize.
Yeah.
That was what I was gonna say. Perfect excuse.
So I don't think, you know, I think I'm going to show this at the Contest University, at both Flex Radio Dinner and Contest University, and at you know, the Tapper AMSAT dinner. But I think I really want to you know, emphasize to the contesters that we should, you know, this shouldn't just be a US centric contest. So I think my reading of the rules right now is there's nothing really stopping us from just, you know, having anyone participate. You know, we aren't country centric in the rules, so, you know, I think we just try to get everyone on the air. And then along with that, these are the first predictions of what the eclipse is going to do to the ionosphere this October. Now, the top is no eclipse, and the bottom has the eclipse in here. And see if we can, well, there you can see the eclipse going through right there. The top is the control, no eclipse, and the bottom has the eclipse. And what you're looking at is the SAMI 3 predictions of total electron content. And Joe Huba noted he thought one of the most interesting features is this thing that's showing up over here. There's this equatorial plasma bubble that shows up in the annular eclipse that we haven't, you know, we don't see in the total eclipse. The reason we're seeing that, he thinks, you know, he still has to do more work on this, but he thinks it has to do, the eclipse path is going into the equatorial region at night, and that's setting up good conditions for this plasma bubble. So that's really, really interesting. And then over here, this is the delta total electron content. So this is the one minus the other. And now you can really see how strong the eclipse is. And there's that equatorial plasma bubble showing up there. And so it's nice, these numerical predictions are now in the hands of both Rachel Bodeker and my other graduate student, Devin Deal. And Devin's, you know, they're supposed to work on connecting this to FarLap so we can actually do like ray trace predictions of HF through here, which is nice. And Devin showed another plot today that was really neat, because this is, you know, Devin showed it in a way that you could really see that the night was actually a much deeper depletion than the eclipse. So you could really see there's a difference between the eclipse and night, which I thought was nice too. So that is kind of what we're up to here. So back to net.
Well, very good. That sounds like exciting stuff. And
Yeah.
I think you're going to have a lot of people interested in the
Yeah.
information you have to talk about.
Thanks. I was so glad Joe got those predictions done. I think that that's going to be really nice to show at
Yes.
Dayton. I think people will be very excited to see that.
Yep. Sounds good. Well, next on the list is Michael, AA8K. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, thank you. Greetings to everyone listening. Back to you, Dave.
Okay. And after that is Bill Engelkey, AB4EJ. Go ahead, Bill.
Thanks, Dave. Good evening to the net. Not a whole lot to report on this project this evening. I did work with Stan, KD1LE, on getting one of his GRAPE devices switched over to collecting data in digital RF format and submitting it to the personal space for the station network. So We now have 3 stations collecting DRF data. It's sort of a precursor to what we plan to do at the Tangerine. So that's about all I have to report. Back to you.
Okay, well, I did see more dots on the map. And my last time I looked. Thank you. And next on the list is Bob in 5BRG. Go ahead, Bob.
Hello, everybody. Not a lot to report. Still collecting parts from a magnetometer here and hope to get it buried and running pretty quick. Anyway, back to you, Dave.
Okay. Next on the list is, let's see, David in 1 HAC. Go ahead, David.
Oh, good evening, everyone. Interesting propagation going on these days. I guess we have more CMEs coming in right now. I'm listening to WWV, and 20 and 25 are coming in very quietly, 25 better than 20, which is weird. And they're just wafting in and out. So some minor thing is going on with the geomagnetic field. We're hoping we get to see some real northern lights at some point, but more shall be revealed. And other than that, working on our the regular projects and getting ready to come out to Ohio and get a few eyeball QSOs in. So back to net.
Very good. Next on the list is Dave Witten, KD0 EAG. Go ahead, David.
I try to put that in my picture, but it goes away. I don't know what I did. Anyway, not a lot of excitement here. I'm working on this and that. I'm hoping to go to Dayton. I got some kind of flack this afternoon about it being a different day than my wife thought it was. But and she's, well, it's a long story, but whatever it is, I'm blameless. But and I don't know whether I mentioned last time, I finally have a decent magnetometer hole in my backyard. I caught the fence builders who are making a dog fence for our next door neighbors, and got them with their auger and their bobcat to drill me a real good hole. And if I see them out there again, I'm gonna bribe them to drill me some more. But I'm starting to think I need a lot of holes for different purposes out there, but it's great. And so I've been slowly, piece by piece, assembling stuff. And one day I may actually have something that someone could look at. But otherwise, that's it for me.
Well, very good. And next on the list is Dylan. I can't remember Dylan's call sign. I'm sorry. Dylan, are you there? There he is.
So, hello.
Hello.
I had to find the button. So not really much to report. So I'll send it back to net control.
I have a
Hello.
question for you. Is your talk coming together?
Yes, it is.
Good. Just thought I'd ask.
Really well, might I say.
Very good. Well, I look forward to hearing it. So next on the list is Gary, AFA Day. Go ahead, Gary. I hear you're busy.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I was working on a couple of, I guess you call them PR projects this weekend. CitizenScience.org is having a workshop in a couple of weeks, actually the week after Dayton. And I put together a pamphlet for them. The Raspberry Pi folks got wind of an order for 100 units from John Gibbons at Case. They want to know what he's going to do with all these things. And when he told them, they offered to or asked for a description of the project to put up on the Raspberry Pi blog. So I did that today and sent that off with a few pictures, and we'll see if that bears fruit for what it's worth. But more importantly, today's my, I guess, second last request for everyone. If anybody's interested in doing either booth talks or signing up for some time in the Hamsci booth at the Hamvention, I'll put those two links in the chat. One of the reasons I'm asking tonight is we're getting close to having to order the exhibitor badges. So anyone who gives a booth talk or signs up for time in the booth will get an exhibitor badge, which can save you some money for getting into the Hamfest. You don't get a raffle ticket though, but maybe that has some appeal for some people. So anyhow, I'll put those links in the chat for a minute and turn it back to you, Dave. Thanks.
Very good. Well, I can't do it in the Hamsci booth, but I'll be in the Tapper booth with a working magnetometer, not in the ground, but at least on the table. The pieces will all be there so people can see what it is and what it does. So come by and see that anytime except
that?
Huh?
Have you
Dave,
tested that?
Not again, but I have several working ones. So
Well, I
if
just
I
meant
have-
that, did Michael set it up so it will actually show data?
yes, but
Okay,
anyway, next on the list is Hillman KD2 MCR. Go ahead, Hillman.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I've been pretty busy with all this semester ending soon. Other than that, I've been working closely with the one of our students working on the data portal. We are making good progress. Now we are able to display plots, and we are actually also adding some interactiveness so that we can zoom in and out of the plot in time scale. Also on top of that, we are trying to have some survey plot saved daily so that anyone can see the overall context in a much faster fashion. So we are making very good progress. One thing that caught my eye is that the formats are all different. I don't know where that comes from. Even though the data that came from the same station have multiple different data formats. For now, it's not a big deal because we are talking about, say, 5 or 6 stations. Now, if we have, many other stations with many different data format, that'll be a big headache. So I think at some point we have to consolidate this issue. I actually don't really know where that comes from, because I was looking at, like, for example, JennyJump data, and I see 2 different formats. So I don't know where the different format comes from.
So
Yeoman,
Mhm.
are you talking about data that you got from the Linode server?
So yes, maybe
Okay.
because I download data directly from my Raspberry Pi, and some of the data actually grab those data from your
Yeah.
server, or I think
Yes.
from
Right, right. The reason that there's a variety of formats is because that data is everything that's been collected since the dawn of time when we were testing stuff. And there was no agreement for a while as how to write it to the logs. I tried to implement, tell people to use a particular format, but I'm not certain that whether they have or have not. So, but there certainly is in my folder, not that any of the data there's really trustworthy, but I, probably have 3 formats or more, and a lot of it's junk.
The same with my data is I started with the base recommendation that we had, and then Jules and David had come up with a different set of parameters for recommendations. So I switched to theirs. So those could be some of the changes. And
There
then
was
go ahead.
There was a lot of pressure to use CSV, and I really don't like grabbing data in CSV. And so the ultimate choice was to use JSON, but whether people have used the JSON flag in their setups, I don't know.
So one thing we might do, Nathaniel could help with this, is come up with the recommended parameter settings for the software and encourage new users to use that set of parameter settings.
I tried to be very specific in the setup instructions for transferring data, for new users setting up these things. But a few, like Jenny Jump, I think is one that goes back before we had got to that spot, making that decision. So there probably is a couple different things. And so, yeah, it would be nice to have something, get holy water sprinkled on something as a standard. It'd probably make Bill's life a little easier, other people's. But my preference is very strongly to use a tagged format that identifies the data items, but is still readable.
Okay, so I guess yeah, I think I maybe we have to come up with some kind of like suggested like data format so that we don't have to worry about reading different file formats.
Yes.
The other issue is that I noticed that some of the data use different like coordinate system. So I guess that comes from the assembly of the magnetometer. When you put the sensor, it depends, the different orientation could come from the assembly of the sensor board into the PVC pipe.
Yes.
So that's why I see like different X, Y, Z's. It's again, that's not a big deal for now because we're dealing with only like 5 or 6 different stations. I can flip, it's just a matter of just putting the signs and then swap the coordinate system. But sometimes it's kind of a little confusing why the coordinates are flipped. It's not just flipped in the other direction, but also like maybe it's completely like mirrored or something because the way they put the sensor into the PCB can be different. So there are two different two different possible ways of making the coordinate system different. One is to put how to put the sensor board into the PVC pipe. Second is actually how to orient it when they install it. So I think we just really have to give a much clearer instruction how to assemble the PVC pipe and how to orient this. So
yes, and the parameter settings to use on the software.
Yep. Anyway, that's all I have. Back to Nat.
Okay. Well, and one other thing is, I don't know, Bill doesn't need something else to do, but it'd be nice if there was a sanity check on the data and you could tell the user that their data made sense or it makes no sense. So anyway, next on the list is, let's see, Jay, WB8 SBI. Go ahead, Jay.
Okay, I'm here. Hang on. There we go. Hi, gang. Joining late, had a religious event I was just coming from. You mentioned about having a sanity check or something when I'm writing the requirements for the software for the solar eclipse QSO party per the meeting last Thursday's QSO party meeting. I volunteered to put into paper some requirement software, and that's one of them. It's somewhere in there. I'm still getting ideas on paper, so it's not even version 1.0 ready. It's like version 0.1 right at the moment, but it's in there. That's about all I had as far as the ham science goes. In general operating last night, Sunday, on 20 meters FT4. Last night, I got the Falklands Islands. And there was a special event station there. The suffix was Kilo Charlie Charlie, a special event station for King Charles' coronation. And so the band opened up. It was up and down, up and down, up and down. And finally it stayed up long enough for me to get the QSO on FT4. So I'm happy. Other than that, just starting to get myself organized for the pilgrimage next week. Take care, everybody. 7-3 to all. Back to net.
Very good. Next on the list is Jonathan, KC3Y. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hi, everybody. I don't have too much to report this week. I was busy with writing that article and didn't get a chance to do any hardware development. But I did receive those U-Blocks M8T Neo M8T breakout boards from JLC PCB, and I also received the remaining components from Mauser. So I just want to assemble those, or assemble one and test it. That will primarily be for the VLF calibrator, and the U-Blocks will generate the required calibration signals for calibrating VLF receivers. But with the rest of them, with the rest of the boards that I want to order, I would like to get some VLF receivers out there, especially during the eclipse, to record VLF spectrum and VLF transmitters to see if we would see what I'm predicting, which would be a change in propagation of VLF transmitters, and also nighttime tweaks, since the nighttime ionosphere would be simulated, would be generated by the moon shadow, or the moon shadow. Also last week there were 3 amateur VLF transmissions from DL3 JMM. He used 30 watts of power. Fortunately, they did not make it across the pond. He's in Germany. He did 8270 hertz, 5170 hertz, and 2970 hertz. All 3 frequencies. They were heard loud and clear in Europe, not so much in India. The ILDN, the Indian Lightning Detection Network, is based on VLF receivers that use VLF-RX tools similar to what I use, or well, it's the exact same as what I use. And not only are those receivers used for lightning location, but they could be used for amateur VLF transmission, which they have made multiple QSOs, but nothing was heard in India, nothing was heard in the US. So hopefully Burn will try again in fall. The summer is not really a good time for VLF transmissions because there's so much local lightning that it's hard to get a good decode because of all that noise. The VLF noise floor actually goes up in the summer due to all of the summer's lightning all over the world. Also, another interesting thing, there were some CMEs that impacted Earth's magnetosphere, and this was observed in VLF transmitters. So as I mentioned in an email last week, there was another instance of a VLF enthusiast receiving, I forget which VLF transmitter it was, but it showed the same small scale or a short time scale variation, which I believe is due to the ionization of the CMA, the ionization caused by the CME material, and not the cosmic rays. So it's that effect is only seen during local nighttime with the E layer. With the D layer, it's not really seen because the D layer is actually quite stable, even though there is a active CME. The D layer is fairly stable, but it's interesting to see this effect of the different sources of ionization and how they affect the E layer, the other boundary of the Earth of the Earth ionosphere waveguide. That's all I have. Back to the net.
Okay, and next we have Tom in 5EG. Any comments, Tom?
Oh, good evening. It's been quite an incredible couple of weeks here. And no progress on the project, unfortunately. I hope to get started back on that again. And that's about it.
Well, we all think about you and keep you, wish the best of luck to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the good wishes, and I think I'm on the mend, so that's good.
Well, that's good to hear.
I agree. If there's anything we can do to help, let us know.
Thank you.
Maybe you'll get a little intellectual stimulation, we hope, from listening to us.
Yeah, anything to take my mind off, that would be good.
Yes.
Tom, did you have any comments, or maybe we can talk about this in the open discussion? Any comments on what I sent to Alan Reichlin?
No, the only open question has to do with the floating license after the 1-year period. Is it still a good license?
Right. Yes, I think it is. But I also think, when I looked at the chart you sent, the Pro Edition does not say it supports the Max 10.
Okay, let me take a look at that real quick. I'll hang on. I'll continue other discussion and I'll go take a look at it.
Okay.
Well, I was about ready to turn it over to open discussion, so.
I'll give that.
I would like to ask a quick question of Jonathan at the first opportunity.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, you have how difficult is it to construct the receiver that you have at this point?
It's not really all that difficult. The receiver that I use, it's also built inside a PVC pipe. It takes a bit of care with the construction. like you need a bench to assemble the antenna element. You have to build the board either Manhattan style, or you could easily use a perf board. It's not all that difficult. I could send you the schematic, and I could also send you some pictures to aid in building it. And also, if you have any more questions or whatever, we could possibly meet over Zoom sometime this week after I get home from work. But it's not really all that difficult to put together. The only thing is that it can't really be placed underneath trees. It has to be in an open field. And it can't be and it's best if it is like probably minimum 75 feet away from some sort of power line, whether the power line is house wiring inside a house or a telephone pole. The main thing is that the main sum, you don't want it too loud to overload the sound card or other components, where it'll generate a lot of harmonics and it'll be difficult to filter. But if you're interested, and if you have a nice rural area, I would love to assist you in getting one going.
Well, I haven't got an entirely rural area, but I would be interested in, well, I do, but it's too far away to be convenient. But I would like to look at it. I won't say I'm going to jump on it right now.
Okay.
But I'd like to look at the schematic and maybe a picture, if you have a picture of what recent picture of what you built or something like that. I could, give me a sense of what I'm up against. I'd really like to get that from you, just so because I don't totally know what you have looks like.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I will email you some pictures, and I will email you the schematic, and you could take a look at it and see what if it would be something you'd be interested in.
I would appreciate that. Do you need any information, or can you get it from Nathaniel about me?
I have your email address from the from the lists.
Great. All right.
So
I just appreciate that. Thanks.
I have a question for Jonathan. Are you going to be in Dayton?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I will be there, and Dave may be there. So he's planning to go.
Does it make sense or is it possible to make the VLF receiver available through the Tapper store?
It's possible, but it needs to be a kit that we put together so it's a product that we can sell. And both this and the magnetometer, the complicating issues are explaining to users the unique environment that the antennas need to be, or the receiving component of the system where it has to be. Most people are used to having something that they can put in their basement and run some kind of wire out the window or door.
I really think each of these subcomponents of this overall project really needs a champion, that maybe not necessarily the person who designed things, but someone who's going to try to help with getting people to understand why they might want to
Yeah.
put it together. Because without someone who's, can convey the essence of what something's about, people are kind of lost in the final moment.
And
I agree with that.
it's kind of this whole thing. If you're in the academic world and deal with atmospheric propagation, it's not such a big deal to know how this works. But a lot of the users we're talking to, while competent hams, have not done some of these frequencies are quite foreign to them, like Jonathan's frequencies or the
Right.
magnetometer.
Yeah, and I mean, I see this in the VLF Facebook groups and the groups.io group. Newer users, newer hams wanting to get into VLF. Their first rodeo or their first area of interest tends to be VLF transmitters, since that's a fairly easy, like a lower hanging fruit. And that's usually how I like to have them start, something that they're kind of, that they understand, because natural radio is obviously a fairly foreign concept to many people, but VLF transmitters, they tend to understand better, and they tend to be able to get set up much more quicker. So yeah, with this sort of thing, it's going to need like a good documentation page, like a good getting started page, and lots of pictures, lots of figures, just to get people started and familiar with this stuff. Because yeah, with the magnetometer and with the VLF system, it there's a learning curve to it, because they're technically sensors, and it's not really like something that they're used to.
I had some of that experience trying to teach. I taught in a forestry school, but I was teaching people how GPS systems, or actually all the satellite navigation systems work, where the resources are, how do you tell when things are working right and not working right, and what are the tolerances you can expect. And it was interesting to try to get people who weren't normally dealing with radios or technical stuff to understand what it could and couldn't do.
Right, and that's that. I also see a similar thing in the amateur seismic community, although that's a little bit easier to understand for a lot of people. Obviously, there's no communication in this, but it's but you use sensors, which are that's a little bit more easier for people to understand. But with this radio stuff, it tends to be esoteric. So yeah, that's always the challenge, is trying to get people learned up on this, because I was thinking about the same thing. How do I get people to be able to install and operate the system like I operated at Nathaniel's, and that's going to take a little bit of ingenuity to kind of get that right.
Can I ask a question? How hard is that to run that site remotely?
Actually, it's very easy. as long as you have your VLF receiver and your systems obviously sealed off from the weather, installed properly, engineered properly, so there's not a lot of failures. All you need is SSH access, and you could completely completely control an operative system. Well, you know, what you're mainly doing is you know, recording. You know, you're not really
Recording.
controlling anything, but you're recording. But you could pull different sorts of different data, different visualizations. You know, just last week, what I was doing was I was pulling some spectrum data from the Raspberry Pi, or on the VLF server, and I was running it through the narrowband spectrum analyzer program to see if I could, you know, if there were any amateur signals. So if you know how to use Linux and command line tools, and you're familiar with VLF-RX tools, it's very easy to operate remotely. There's quite a lot of stuff on the Pi and Nathaniel's server that I have been doing over the past couple months.
Very good.
Yeah, I think this is nice. I think Jonathan's been getting some really nice results, and we're going to try to get them published in Space Weather Journal. And he's also going to CDAR and doing a poster there. And I think if there's some way we could, you know, support his deployment of these VLF receivers, I think it'd be a really good thing in general. So,
Well,
They may need a little productization to
yeah.
make them distributable.
yes, but I do know Tapper would be open to that. I've heard talk of this kind of stuff before, so that's not outside the realm of what they're already thinking, the board. And I don't know, obviously, if you have funding elsewhere, that's fine. Tapper's still trying to get things working, but once you have a product, then you can sell things. There's a little bit of a income stream that comes with
Well,
it.
either way, it just needs to be made intelligible to someone who doesn't, you know, who's looking at it, but hasn't had their hands in the water for, you know,
It
couple of
definitely
years.
definitely takes somebody who can answer questions about it.
You often need someone who can explain the why you would want to do this rather than just the how to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're looking to people like you, Nathaniel.
Yeah.
You're really good at explaining things, but
Well,
you're
I
kind
think
of a busy guy.
I am booked, but I think Jonathan's actually very good at explaining it too.
Yes.
And you know, I think I'd ask Jonathan, you know, I really let him kind of drive his own project here. I've tried to do everything I could to pretty much like kind of open space for him to work on it, but he's really done all of the heavy lifting. So I think a lot of it would be, you know, Jonathan, where do you want it to go? Do you want to try to recruit more people to help you through HamSci or through your other VLF contacts? You know, but I think you have a really nice thing there, and it would be great to see, you know, to try to figure out how to help you build out a network if that's what you desire.
Yeah, because what I was thinking of doing, as far as the product is, I would basically do some board designs, one for the VLF receiver, one for a VLF receiver interface and GPS. Something that could be easily purchased as a kit and put together like the magnetometer. But I just have to sit down and do the schematics and do the board designs. It's hard for me to work on like a couple of things at once. Since I've been working on the paper, I haven't really been working on the hardware.
Yeah.
But the goal is to design some boards that could be made at JLC PCB cheaply with SMT assembly.
Yeah.
And utilize their parts library to do the majority of the SMT assembly. And then when we get them from JLC PCB, parts that would make sense to be socketed like the ICs. Because if something happens, it's easy to just pop the IC out. If it goes bad with lightning, because that's always a danger, is that there could be surges or excess voltages built up that could damage the chips. But socket those components but the rest could be surface mount. And on the inside, you could have a interface board that also has surface mount and some through hole components like the DC to DC converter and the audio isolation transformer and gas discharge arresters and stuff like that. But if I could get if anyone is curious about the model that I'm going after, here I'll post the website. So ildn.in, I just posted in the chat. That's the Indian Lightning Detection Network, and it's a collaboration between Paul, the author of VLF-RX tools, and a bunch of universities in India, where he basically did a design for a general purpose VLF receiver, just like I am, and he made it into a convenient product in this pipe. You can see, Dave, if you go to that website and then you click the About section, you can see what the actual VLF active antenna, that's what he calls it. It's an active antenna where it has the preamp board built in. So that's going to be the product, the VLF receiver product that's going to be sold as a kit or with instructions, just like with the magnetometer. And then people are going to be able to build that, but they're going to have the preamp board. So they could easily get started instead of having to build the circuit. Me, I love and enjoy building circuits. So it's not that difficult for me. Like if I'm given a schematic, it's pretty easy for me to build a working product. But a lot of people they can't do that. So that's why this kit will work much better. So yeah, if everyone looks at the About section, there's the VLF active antenna, and then there's the little processor box. That's the Raspberry Pi box that has the interface board in it. And Paul made that very modular because he also designed that part too. Just one big board that everything kind of slips onto. And it's very easy to assemble and build a lot of these boxes without much effort. So that was the impetus behind trying to find like a U-Blocks receiver, breakout board, and just to make things, just get some boards, plug them together, and you have a working system. So that's the model that I'm working
Well,
after.
But let's try to find some time at Dayton and talk about this some more.
Okay, sounds good.
Nathaniel, I'm coming up on my time constraint that I have to leave, but
That sounds good.
Oh.
And I see Dev hopped on here, so I
Yeah.
think Dev wanted to chat for a couple minutes. So
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
Very glad to see everyone again.
yes.
nice to see you.
Nice to see everyone.
Hello.
Before we sign off from the main meeting, two other quick announcements. One, Jason Johnston did a really nice video about the upcoming solar eclipse QSO parties. So I'll put this link in the chat. Well, that's a little, you can watch this on your own time, but it's a really nice video advertising the solar eclipse QSO parties, and he just released that today. So it's very nice.
Very good.
And then the other nice thing is, let me get this up. We've gotten 2 sets of reviews back from the Frontiers paper that we were working on, that we submitted to Frontiers, and both of the reviews were very good. So this is the review from today, and they gave me a few things to talk about, to add to it. Of course, every reviewer wants you to add to some things, but really it's a very, very positive review, especially considering it's coming from reviewer number 2. They gave us a quality assessment of 5 on rigor, 5 on the quality of writing, 4 on the overall quality of the content, and 4 in interest to the general audience. And I think that's all out of a ranking of 5. So I think that's good news for our paper. So at some point
Very
I have
good.
to go through and make the revisions and try to, get it over the hump. But that's a very positive, I think.
Nathaniel,
Yes.
I looked at the data sheet. You are correct. The Max 10 is not supported in the Pro edition.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing an error message about a year ago
Mm-hmm.
saying that the Max 10 didn't support advanced fitting
Okay.
or other. My guess is the one feature that we need the Pro for, the incremental compilation, is the one thing that the Max 10 does not support. That's just a guess on my part. I'm just speculating. But
Sounds like a good question for the
yeah, that's a
dealer.
good question for the sales engineer.
Yeah.
I'm, we found a couple of key things now missing in the Max 10, and that may be another one of those things.
Yeah. That's very discouraging.
Yeah, so you can ask and see if that's the reason maybe it got left off.
Well, on the plus side, I may save a bunch of money by not buying Quartus software.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what happens if this Max 10, I mean, where do we go if this Max 10 thing doesn't work out? Are we just
We probably have to go with Scotty's newer module would be my guess.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we've been fighting timing on the Max 10 for the whole project. And the incremental compilation is intended to, I know Phil Harmon used that extensively when he did Open HPSDR.
Yes.
Because of the timing issues. And so if the tooling doesn't support that, that's kind of a big issue.
So so basically this timing thing, if you don't have a incremental timing thing, you can't lock down like incremental parts of the project, and things are like constantly moving under your feet. Is that the idea?
Yeah, what you use it for is you get some critical timing part of your design working,
Mhm.
And then you can cast into concrete the fitting and placement of the logic elements and the wiring that make that timing work. Then you
Mm.
can go add new things, and they'll be routed in such a way as they don't disturb the existing routing.
Mhm.
And so, whereas without incremental convolution, when you add more stuff, you start over from scratch each time.
Mhm.
And as I found, a lot of times with the additional stuff, it can never achieve timing on the old parts,
Mm.
on the old logic elements that you had already in there.
Hmm.
And so that's, I've run into that a couple of times now.
Now, what if we reduce the requirement from say like 50 megahertz bandwidth down to 30 megahertz bandwidth? Does that bias anything?
I'm not sure. The timing right now is driven by the gigabit Ethernet interface,
Mm-hmm.
and that's dependent on the PHY chip used in the design. The PHY chip is what's called an RGMII interface.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's 4 lanes running at 250 megahertz, megabits per second per lane to the gigabit PHY chip. And it's those 250 megabit per second signals that are driving the timing issues so far.
So it really has nothing to do with the bandwidth of the receiver.
Right, right.
Are
At
we
this po-
able to slow the Ethernet interface down?
I don't know. I haven't dug into it. You know, you
If
could
we
find-
even did something as drastic as running at 100 meg rate,
Yeah,
and
I
at least
don't know the details of that chip and how that, does that interface just run at 25 megabits per second per lane, or does it stay at 250 but only, use it 1 out of 10 bits? I don't know. I haven't dug into the chip interface.
right. But that's interesting. You're saying that the Ethernet interface is what's hanging it up.
Well, that's the first thing. The second thing is the timing on the DDR3 RAM,
Right.
because those run at 300 megabits per second.
Right.
And,
But that,
and there's no options to change that at all.
right. But it also should work, because that's a standard interface that everybody's going
is.
to want to run that.
Well, it's true. And the gigabit interface is standard as well.
Right.
And when you have a minimal collection of logic, they all meet timing. And when you add stuff, the timing starts breaking.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, can we at least get each one of those working individually to begin with?
They all are working individually.
Okay. And it's that when you combine it all.
It's when I add new features to do the software defined radio stuff.
Right.
That it starts adding a lot of logic elements which occupy die real estate. And that starts, because I can't do incremental timing, it rips everything off and starts at ground zero again. And now it's got gates in the middle of where they used to not be.
And are you not able to give it a site plan so that it, you know which parts of the chip are getting used for what?
So far, I don't think so. I think that's the feature that we're trying to get in the licensed tool, is that ability.
I thought that was like basic, but
Yeah, so this is a Scotty question. I'm
Yeah.
no expert in that tool chain. It's complicated enough as it is, but that's my understanding. And I could well be wrong. That's where you need to talk to the sales engineer.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to
yeah,
keep
that's
following
actually
up
not
on
a
that
sales
discussion.
engineer question. That's an app engineer question.
Okay. Yeah. So
That's deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They ought to
I
have
wasn't.
that will help us with that.
What's that, David?
They should have people that will help us with that. This is all very basic stuff too. Planning out FPGA, getting it to work.
I thought this came with the price you pay for these.
Right,
Don't you get a FAE or somebody to,
yes,
Yeah, but the key is before the sale, you need to find out which of the various licenses you want to purchase. And so you gotta talk to them, if I get the pro license, do I get
Yeah,
this
but
capability?
I guess
If
the
I
point
buy
I'm
the
trying to
standard,
make
do
is
I
not
get
that,
that?
yeah, the sales engineer is going to try to sell you something. This is not a sales question. This is a question for someone who knows deeper into the chip
Yeah,
and can help us work through the design.
yeah, I
That
don't
they
know.
will know likewise which version of the of Quartus we would need to do it.
Yeah, whatever Intel names that person's
Yeah.
job, we need that person.
Yeah. Sales engineer is the guy that sells it to you and
Yeah.
says, oh yeah, it'll do it, but maybe not.
Yeah, I
So the-
worked for companies that had different definitions of those terms.
Right. Yeah. But this is an applications engineering question that, yeah. I guess Scotty's the one to try to see
Yeah.
who we could talk to about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it shouldn't be just ripping everything up and then breaking it.
Yeah, so I'm going off the 2-page glossy brochure on what features go with which version.
Right.
So creative reading and interpretation only gets you so far.
Yeah. All right.
So, Nathaniel, I'd be willing to participate in a conference call
That
with
would be
you
great.
and the Altera folks, if we think that would help us make our mind up.
I think that might, maybe, can you start by possibly replying to the email I sent out to Alan this weekend?
Okay, I'll
And
do
that'll
that.
keep that chain going. And
Okay,
then I think we should try to, see if we can get, Alan and Scotty on the line all
yeah,
together. I have some, time slots open this Friday, potentially. So,
Okay, let me-
early next week I could do as well.
okay, I've got surgery early next week.
Okay.
So next week, I'm probably out next week.
Yeah.
Friday the 12th is okay.
Okay.
If we could get you, Scotty, the sales engineer, and I on there, we'd probably make quick work of this.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't know
So,
if Scotty can show, but he's got the background here that the rest of us don't have.
okay. That's great. I will send an email out seeing if we can make any of those time slots on Friday. So
Okay,
yeah. Great.
I expect this has got to work. It's just a matter of figuring out how to set up the software to compile it properly.
yeah, they have, the feature list is pretty lengthy between the various kinds of licenses you can buy.
Yeah. All right. I'm sending them an email right now.
Okay,
Why don't I say 73 then, or turn off this meeting, and then I'll chat with Deb for a little bit, and then we'll go from there.
okay.
Thanks so much. Feel better,
Good night,
Tom.
everyone.
Thanks, Phil. Good night, everybody.
Good night.